Hello students, after good response to the relativity sessions and positive feedback, today I am presenting sessions on module 6, physics of sensors. We will go with the flow of Mumbai University syllabus. As per the syllabus, the number of lectures needed for this chapter is around 5. Marks weightage is around 18 to 20 marks. In the beginning, we will discuss some transducer concepts. We will define what is a transducer. Then we will discuss the importance of calibration in the measurements, and we'll define the piezoelectric effect as prerequisites required for this chapter. Then we will introduce ourselves to the concept of resistive sensors, and we will discuss how the resistive sensors can be used for measuring the temperature and humidity. Then we will go for pressure sensors. We will discuss here methods of measuring the pressure by capacitive method, flex method and inductive method. Then we will learn the concept of piezoelectricity, and we will see how piezoelectric transducer can be used to generate ultrasonic sound. We will also discuss how the ultrasonic transducer can be used for the distance measurement. The ultrasonic sound can also be used to measure the velocity of liquid and air. So this also we are going to discuss in this part of the module. Under optical sensor, we will discuss construction of photodiode and how photodiode can be used for the measurement of ambient light and flux. And at the end, we will be discussing pyroelectric sensors, their construction and their working principle, and how pyroelectric sensors can be used as a bolometer. Outcome of this module will be learner, after learning this module, will be able to interpret and explore basic sensing techniques for physical measurements in modern instrumentations. So what is a transducer? Transducer is a device that converts energy in one form to the energy in some other form. Here we have some examples of the transducers. This is a piezoelectric transducer which takes the energy in the mechanical form and converts it in equivalent amount of electrical energy. Then we have a temperature transducer here. The temperature transducer is nothing but a sensor which senses the changes in temperature, and accordingly it produces changes in the output current. Then we have an ultrasonic transducer which takes alternating electrical signal as input and converts it in sound wave of desired frequency. A transducer can be an active transducer or a passive transducer depending on whether the power source is required by it. An active transducer does not require any power source. It operates on the principle of energy conservation. The active transducers generate the electrical signal that is proportional to the input signal. Here a piezoelectric transducer is an example of active transducer. Temperature transducer is also an example of active transducer here, as they do not require any external power source. Passive transducers need a power source for their operation. They generally produce the output in the form of capacitance or resistance, and then this capacitance or resistance can be converted into equivalent amount of voltage or current signal. Here this ultrasonic transducer, which is converting electrical signal into equivalent sound signal, is an example of passive transducer. Resistive sensors are the best examples of the passive transducers. If we want to use some device for the measurement, then we must be sure about its accuracy. we must be confident that the device is giving us correct readings, and for this purpose we do calibration. Calibration is the comparison of measurement values done by a device under test with those of a calibration standard of known accuracy. In simple words, by doing calibration, we will match the readings shown by the device under test with the reading shown by some standard device. Suppose here we have two meters which can measure temperature for us. This is a standard temperature meter which is giving us a reading of 24 degrees centigrade. Now, if this analog meter shows the same reading, then we can say that this meter is calibrated and giving us accurate reading. Over the time, the accuracy of the measuring device may change and it may give wrong readings. Therefore, we need to do calibration frequently for getting reliable and accurate readings. The first sensor that we will be studying is a resistive sensor. Resistive sensor is a transducer that converts displacement or heat or humidity into an electrical signal. This electrical signal can be measured as a voltage or current. Resistive sensors need power source for their operation, and therefore they are called as passive sensors. Resistive sensors are the most commonly used sensors in instrumentation. We will be discussing PT100 resistive sensor and its use in temperature measurement. We will be also discussing how resistive sensor can be used in humidity measurement. A PT100 is a resistive sensor which can be used for measuring the temperature. Such sensors are also called as resistance temperature detectors or simply RTDs. In PT100, the first part PT stands for platinum, and the second part, the number 100, is nothing but the resistance of this sensor at 0 degree centigrade. So, this 100 ohm is the resistance of PT100 at 0 degree centigrade. Same way, we can have other sensors like Cu100. Cu stands for copper, and 100 again, it is the resistance of that sensor at 0 degree centigrade. Or Ni120, this is nickel, and resistance of this at 0 degree centigrade is 120. Or we can have PT1000. So, this is again a platinum sensor, but now the resistance of this sensor at 0 degree centigrade is 1000. So, such combinations are also possible. In the last slide, we have seen that we can have copper resistive sensor or nickel resistive sensors also. So, why to prefer platinum in resistive sensors? Because we know platinum is costly, but still we are going for it. So, what is the reason? The main reason is resistance versus temperature graph of platinum. It is the most linear and stable as compared to other materials. Secondly, it is extremely resistant to corrosion and inert for any type of chemical attack. It is very stable at high temperature, and as far as cost is concerned, the mass of platinum used in the manufacturing of sensing element is extremely small. So, even though it is costly, the cost of the device will not be much high. So, that is these are the reasons why do we prefer platinum in the resistive sensors. Let us discuss construction of PT100. PT100 sensors can be manufactured in two ways. It can be wire winding type, in which platinum wire is wound around a glass rod or ceramic rod, or it can be produced with the help of a latest thin film technology. Wire wound construction is the commonly used construction. a platinum wire is wound around a glass rod or ceramic rod. The winding is fused onto the ceramic and is provided with the connecting wires. Resistance value is calibrated by adjusting length of this platinum wire. At the end, a protective case is pushed over the ceramic rod and the winding. This is how the actual PT100 sensor will look like. Whenever temperature of the conductor changes, its resistance also changes. This property can be utilized for measuring the temperature. The temperature and resistance of the conductor are related by relation RT equal to R naught into bracket 1 plus alpha 1 T plus alpha 2 T square plus alpha 3 T cube and so on. Here RT is the resistance of the conductor at temperature T degree centigrade, R naught is the resistance of the conductor at temperature 0 degree centigrade, and alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3, these are the coefficients of resistance. For platinum sensors in the range 0 degree centigrade to 100 degree centigrade, this relationship is almost linear, and therefore we can write RT to be equal to R naught into bracket 1 plus alpha T. So, this linear relationship of platinum sensor can be used for measurement of temperature. So, this is a linear graph of resistance versus temperature plotted for PT100 sensor, which can be used for calibration. For PT100, the resistance at 0 degree centigrade is 100 ohms, that is why it is called as PT100, and resistance at 100 degree centigrade is 138.5 ohms. So, we can calculate the mean temperature coefficient between 0 degree centigrade and 100 degree centigrade as alpha equal to R100 minus R naught upon R naught into 100 degree centigrade. Now, this relation is obtained from this relation. So, the mean temperature coefficient for PT100 is calculated as 0.00385 per degree centigrade. It means that for each degree Celsius change, the change in resistance of PT100 is 0.00385 ohm. So, because of the linear nature of graph of resistance versus temperature, platinum sensors are preferred over the other sensors. Now, we know if we know the resistance of the sensing element, we can determine the temperature from the resistance versus temperature graph. To determine the resistance of the sensing element, we will connect that sensing element with using different wiring configurations. Two wire configuration is the most simple configuration. In this two wiring configuration, one wire is connected to one end of the element and the other wire is connected to the other end of the element. Now, this sensing element we have seen in the construction, it is inside the protective case and we do not have access to it. We can measure the resistance only at these points, and when we measure the resistance at these points, it will include the resistance of this connecting wire and this connecting wire as well. So, if resistance of this wire is R1 and resistance of this wire is R2, then the resistance measured between these two terminals will be R1 plus R2 plus RE. So, this is the drawback of this two wire configuration. What is the drawback? we are not getting the exact resistance of the sensing element, but we are measuring the total resistance, which includes the resistance of connecting wires. And therefore, if we find the temperature from the graph, that temperature will be not accurate. We can reduce the values of R1 and R2 by using a large gauge wire, which will have less resistance, but we cannot completely eliminate this R1 and R2. So, this 2-wire configuration is used with high resistance sensors or in the applications where a great accuracy is not required. In the last slide, we have seen that in 2-wire RTD configuration, the resistance of connecting wires R1 and R2 also come into picture, and that lead to the error in the measurement of temperature. So, how to overcome this problem? This problem can be overcome by introducing one more wire, a third wire. So, now this becomes a 3-wire configuration, 3-wire connection. So, in 3-wire configuration, 2 wires link the sensing element to the monitoring device on one side, and 1 wire links it on the other side. So, on this end we have 2 wires connected to the sensing element, and on this end we have only 1 wire connected to the sensing element. Now, what is the use of these 2 wires? We will intentionally select all these 3 wires having the same resistance. So, R1 is equal to R2 and which is equal to R3. Now, for measuring the resistance of this sensing element, we will measure the resistance between this point and this point. So, that resistance will be R1 plus Re plus R2. So, resistance measured through lead 1 and 2, lead 1 and lead 2 will be RT, that is R1 plus R2 plus Re. And then again we will measure the resistance between this lead 2 and 3. So, that will be R2 plus R3. And because R2, R3 and R1 all are same, we can write R2 plus R3 to be equal to R1 plus R2, that is equal to RL. So, resistance between lead 1 and lead 2 is R1 plus Re plus R2, and resistance between lead 2 and lead 3 is R2 plus R3, that is equal to R1 plus R2 we can write. And by measuring these 2 values of the resistances RT and RL, we can find out the resistance of this sensing element, that is Re, which is equal to RT minus RL. RT minus RL, that is nothing but RT minus R1 plus R2. So, this R1 plus R2 will get cancelled with R1 plus R2, and what will be left with Re. So, this is how the resistance of the sensing element only can be obtained. So, with a 3-wire RTD configuration, we can find resistance of the sensing element accurately, and therefore temperature can also be obtained accurately from the graph. We have seen with a 2-wire configuration, it is not possible to measure the resistance of sensing element correctly. So, we went for a 3-wire configuration. In 3-wire configuration also, the requirement is the resistance of the 3 wires used must be same. If you do not have the 3 wires having the same resistance, then we can go for a 4-wire configuration. In 4-wire configuration, two wires link the sensing element from one side to the monitoring device, and two wires link from the other side. So here R1 and R2, these are the two connecting wires having the resistance R1 and R2 are connected to one end of the sensing element, and two wires having the resistance R3 and R4 are connected from the other end. Constant current is passed through the sensing element using the outer leads. So constant current is passed through the sensing element through lead 1 and lead 4, and the voltage drop is measured across the inner leads, that is R2 and R3, 2 and 3. So current is passing through Re, so voltage across the sensing element will be equal to I into R. So that voltage is measured across R2 and lead 2 and lead 3. So by measuring that voltage, the resistance of the sensing element can be calculated. So even though this 4-wire configuration is available, this is used only if dissimilar lead wires are used, and this will be a very rare case, and most of the times we will go for a 3-wire configuration. For calibrating PT100 for measurement of temperature, we can use a Wheatstone bridge. The sensing element, that is PT100, is placed in one of the arm of the bridge. Initially the bridge is balanced, so the galvanometer will show 0 reading. When the temperature changes, RS will change, resistance of PT100 will change, and accordingly the galvanometer will show the deflection. This deflection can be calibrated to give the suitable temperature scale. So this is how the calibration can be done. These are the advantages of PT100 in temperature measurement. With PT100, the temperature measurement is accurate. It provides excellent stability and repeatability. Response time is very less, can be used over a long period of time. It is relatively immune to electrical noise and therefore well suited for the temperature measurement in industrial environments. Size of the sensing element is very small, around 6 to 12 millimeter in diameter and 12 to 75 millimeter in length. So these are the advantages of PT100 in temperature measurement. Disadvantages, cost may be comparatively high because platinum is costly. So even though very little amount of platinum is required, but still platinum is very costly. Being passive device, it will need the power source, and there may be some self heating which may alter the temperature reading. So these are this is the actual 2-wire PT100. You can see the 2 wires coming out of the sensor, and this is a 3-wire, 1, 2, 3. So these 2 wires are connected to one end of the sensing element, and this one lead is connected to the other end of the sensing element. So this is about PT100. Next topic is humidity measurement. Resistive sensors can be used for humidity measurement. Humidity is nothing but the measure of amount of water vapor or moisture present in the air. The sensors which are used for measuring the humidity are known as the hygrometers. Humidity sensors are based on a simple principle. Whenever there is a change in amount of water vapor present in the air, there may be a change in the temperature, and that may alter the electrical current flowing through the sensor. So humidity sensors will detect those changes in the temperature or the electrical current. There are three basic types of humidity sensors: capacitive sensor, resistive sensor, or thermal sensor. In our course, we will be discussing resistive humidity sensors. This is a simple construction of resistive humidity sensor. In this construction, you can see a low resistive material is used, and this low resistive material is placed on top of the two electrodes. So this is electrode 1 and this is electrode number 2. The low resistive materials used can be salt, solid electrolytes, or conductive polymers. They can be used in the humidity sensor. When water is absorbed by this absorbing layer, the resistivity between the electrodes will change. So this change in resistivity is measured by noting the variation in the current which is passed through this device. After measuring the resistivity, the humidity can be calculated. These humidity sensors will not measure the humidity directly, but they will measure the changes in resistivity values, and then humidity is calculated. The output can be seen as digital values by interfacing these humidity sensors with the microcontrollers such as Arduino or Raspberry Pi boards. So this is the actual humidity resistive sensor, and this is where this humidity sensor is interfaced with the microcontroller to get the reading of humidity and temperature on a digital display. Advantages and applications of resistive humidity sensors or hygrometers. There are some electronic equipments which are very sensitive to the environmental changes. So such hygrometers must be used to monitor such environmental changes for the safety of such sensitive electronic equipments. These hygrometers, resistive humidity sensors, are of very small size, and their cost is also very low, so they can be used in industrial as well as domestic or residential applications. They can be used in monitoring devices which can be employed in homes for the people whose health is affected by the humidity changes. Humidity sensor can be a part of home heating system or air conditioner system. They can be used at various places to monitor the humidity. Can be used, this is the major use actually, in meteorology stations to report and predict the weather. So these are various advantages and applications of resistive humidity sensors. We are almost at the end of the session now. Let us solve one or two problems based on platinum RTD, that is PT100. This is the first one. A platinum RTD PT100 measures 100 ohms at 0 degree Celsius and 138.5 ohms at 100 degree Celsius. Calculate resistance of RTD at 50 degree Celsius. So in this problem, temperature is 50 degree Celsius, resistance at 0 degree Celsius is 100 ohms, resistance at 100 degree Celsius is 138.5 ohms. So let us first calculate the temperature coefficient of resistance for this RTD between 0 degree Celsius and 100 degree Celsius. So it is given by R100 minus R0 upon R0 into 100 degree Celsius. So the temperature coefficient is calculated as 0.00385 per degree Celsius. It means for each degree Celsius change in temperature, the resistance will change by 0.00385 ohms. Let us put this value of alpha in this relation, and T is 50 degree Celsius, it is given to us, and we can calculate the resistance at 50 degree Celsius. So resistance at 50 degree Celsius, R50 is equal to R0, that is 100, into bracket 1 plus alpha 0.00385 into T, that is 50, and if you calculate this, it will be 119.25 ohms. Means resistance of the given RTD PT100 at 50 degree Celsius is 119.25 ohms. This is second problem. A platinum RTD PT100 measures 100 ohms at 0 degree Celsius and 138.5 ohms at 100 degree Celsius. Calculate temperature when resistance is 110 ohm. So in last problem we calculated resistance for a given value of temperature. Now resistance is given and you are asked to find out the temperature. So same way we will first calculate alpha, that is the temperature coefficient. So by substituting the value of R100, R0, we get alpha again as 0.00385 per degree Celsius. Now we will get the relation for T from this. So T can be written as RT minus R0 upon R0 into alpha, and when we put the values for RT, R0 and alpha, we can calculate temperature T as 25.97 degree Celsius. So this is how we can find out the temperature for a given value of resistance, or if the temperature is given, we can find out the resistance as well. So now we are at the end of this session. In this session we discussed resistive sensors and how the resistive sensors can be used for the measurement of temperature and humidity. In the next sessions we will be discussing pressure sensors, piezoelectric transducer, optical sensor and pyroelectric sensor. So thank you for watching this session. See you very soon with the next session.